Well, hey everyone. I hope you guys had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I actually just got done listening to a message from a special needs mom who said, yeah, Thanksgiving was pretty awesome this year because she didn't have to go visit family who doesn't get it when it comes to her son and autism and just all the things that go along with holidays and stressors and all of that. So she was able to avoid that. Personally, our Thanksgiving did not change too much. We do not have a big family. So I don't know. How is your Thanksgiving? How are you guys doing? Now, if you have a special education question, please go ahead and post that below. I will be answering those. But I wanted to share with you something that I've been seeing as a big conversation inside of some Facebook groups. And it's all about paras or classroom aides being at IEP meetings. So I've got a question for you. Do the classroom paras or classroom aides show up to your IEP meeting? Now, some of you guys just went, what? What are you talking about? Like, I've never seen an aide at a meeting. I'm not allowed to talk to the aides at the meeting. I have no idea what this would even look like. Others of you watching are going to be like, yeah, this happens all the time. Like, why is this so weird? Because there are no official rules or laws about a para attending or not attending. So Kara says, all my paras attend our IEP meetings. That, in my opinion, based on all of the meetings that I've been to in 25 years of doing this, is not the norm. The norm is that paras are not involved at all. In all the districts that I worked in, the aides were not allowed to talk to the parents. They were not allowed to communicate except for through me, the teacher. They weren't allowed to come to IEP meetings. They just weren't allowed. Now, that's a district rule. That's a district habit. That's a district thing. So you guys should know that. It's a district thing. Now, some of you guys are going to be asking, well, then how do I make sure that the aides come to the IEP meeting? That's not something that you can make happen. And Kara even says, it just started a couple years ago. And then Amanda says, not even when requested. And that's what I was just going to lead to. So Amanda, a lot of times, even when you request it, it will not happen because they're not a mandated part of the IEP team. They are not responsible legally for the education at all. So they don't have like a stake in that paperwork in the same way as the people who are legally required to be there and the parent in that way. So there's no way to really force this to happen. Loopy says, our paras were never able to attend until we demanded it. She spends most of the time with our kid and you don't want us to talk with her? That's exactly the culture that I've been in as a teacher many, many, many years ago. You guys know for the last 20 years, I've actually been working with you, parents and teachers, admins and therapists, anybody who sits at an IEP table. And I've been working on helping you build better IEPs for the real world using strategies that make sense in a way that, necessarily reading a law book doesn't work that way, or looking at the blogs, proven strategies that work to build IEP goals that work in the real world, and to really build an IEP that prepares a child for further education, employment, independent living, which is the purpose of an IEP, which is stated by the law, that part. So yes, that's very common that the aides are not involved at all. Katie says, I have at least 1 to 10. Our meetings are usually during the workday. So as you guys can see, there's a very wide range of practices inside of districts of if paras show up or don't show up or participate in the IEP meeting. So the post that I saw today that kind of triggered this conversation for me was a para who said, I've just been told I'm going to my first IEP meeting and I have no idea what this is going to be like. I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going on. So she had teachers that were coaching her on her role inside of that IEP meeting. Can you imagine how scary that would be, though, as a para who has never been in an IEP meeting? So she's not a special needs parent. So she's never experienced it from that end. She's not a teacher. I'm going to encourage you guys, and this would be for paras too, just to be aware of conversations that should be taking place about IEPs. I would love for you, if you're a parent or a teacher, to go head over to IEPchecklist.com. I'll give you 12 questions that you need to be asking before the IEP meeting. Now, this just isn't prep for the actual meeting. These are things like, do you know the full continuum of placements? Full continuum of placements means, do you know what the placement looks like for your child or for your students that has maybe more supports or less supports that are kind of on either side of where the placement is actually at? There's a big deal when it comes to choosing placement, because if a child's in a wrong placement, they will 100% struggle to make progress at the same level that they could if they were in a placement that better fits their needs. So it's a really big deal to know this full continuum of placements and to have that conversation. So go get your checklist at IEPchecklist.com so you can start to have that. Let's see. Maria says, ours don't, but it hasn't been brought up. Although we can invite anyone we choose. I haven't thought about it, but I'm going to consider it. So you can invite, but if you're a parent and you're inviting a school employee, the school can say no in that way. So absolutely you can invite anybody you want, but because they would be there representing the school, that's actually from the school's invitation for them to be there. Now, I have had a compromise happen sometimes where the aide comes in for a certain part of the conversation. So let's say, for example, that your child has a behavior intervention plan. A BIP is what we call it. Maybe they don't quite have a BIP, that behavior intervention plan, just yet, but you're in the process of getting one. And to be in the process of getting one, you have to do a functional behavior analysis. Now, to do that functional behavior analysis, you have to take a ton of information, ton of data. It should be extremely strategic, very streamlined and clear of what's happening. And then you all sit around and you work on this, kind of decoding the data inside of the functional behavior assessment and develop the behavior intervention plan. I have had districts who do not have aides come to the meetings, and they're an absolute no, can't have paras participate in that type of process, because they will be the ones who are managing the behavior most often. They will be the ones who will be implementing that behavior intervention plan, or they were there for all of the data, so they are giving some extra information beyond just the tally marks on the sheet. So for a specific situation, a lot of times an aide will be allowed to participate in the conversation, even if they're not allowed for the whole meeting or the whole conversation. Let's see. Let's see. I requested this one time and was told the para could not attend. Again, districts, absolutely. Now, here's the thing. This is where I want you to go with your thought process. Why did you want the para to attend? I know it sounds like, well, because she's with my child. There's a lot of people that are with your child and they're not coming to the IEP meeting. So why did you want the aide to attend? What information would the aide or para have that would be valuable to the IEP meeting? And is there another way for you to get that information from that para, whether it's 10 minutes at the beginning of the meeting or a pre-meeting like parent-teacher and aide meeting? Is there another way for you to get the information from that aide that would be valuable for the IEP? As I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff inside that IEP meeting that aides don't need to be a part of, right? You might be negotiating something as a parent that the aide doesn't need to be privy to that conversation that you're having, but they absolutely can have information that you want to have. But do you have to have it exactly in that IEP room, or is there a different way that you can get it? So again, I would love for you guys to go ahead and jump over to IEPchecklist.com. I told you one of the questions that's on this checklist over there is full continuum of placements. Another question that is on there is, do you know who's in charge of accommodations and modifications. Every one of your child's IEPs, if you're a teacher, every one of your students' IEPs has a section that has supports in it. And that can include things like an extra set of books at home, or it can include extra time. It can include a special, pencil gripper. It can include visual schedules, anything, basically anything that your child needs to access their education. And that section of the IEP should be extremely relevant to what is going on right now for you. And what I mean by that is that section of the IEP has gotten put to the wayside with all of our virtual learning, hybrid learning, all the things, okay, that are happening. Everybody's worried about the exact goal. And the goals are absolutely important. But the supports that we need to reach those goals is a key part that we have been neglecting as a school system that we need to look at and start to really think about who's going to be doing these accommodations and modifications and who's in charge of them, because it's not happening for most families. And we need to get clarity on that, because it looks like many school districts are not going back to school full time anytime soon. So, let's see. Anna's struggling because she's saying that her daughter's going to school and no matter what they say, she is learning nothing. Completely understand that. I want you to go ahead and go grab over here this IEPchecklist.com. When you go to IEPchecklist.com and you get your IEP checklist, you will get an invitation to come join me into the Special Education Inner Circle. The Special Education Inner Circle is where we continue this conversation just with special education insiders. So those are people that join the Inner Circle. And we have once a month live Q&A where your question 100% will get answered. You have access to online trainings. You have support from master IEP coaches who will help you get through the struggles. And, that's a general statement when you say something like, my child is learning nothing. So we need to break down. What does that mean? As in, we're making no progress in reading? Okay. What do the reading goals look like? What was the baseline before? What do we need to, put into place to see some type of progress in reading in that area? So we have to really fine tune that general statement of child's not making any progress. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just sharing with you the strategy of how you can continue that conversation and really get some progress moving forward in that. Some of you guys just heard me use the word master IEP coach and you were like, what the heck is a master IEP coach? Well, a master IEP coach could be you. Okay, could be you. If you're a parent or a teacher, or if you have a role at the IEP table in some other capacity, you absolutely become a master IEP coach. I will tell you, most people come into the master IEP coach mentorship for themselves. They come into the mentorship. They're like, just tell me all the things because I want to be better at the IEP table as a teacher, as a parent. I want to build better goals. I want to take better data. I want to just be more confident in what I'm choosing for my child or for my students when it comes to special education, because there's a lot of choices in special education, right? Lots of choices all the time. Do we take this? Do we take that? Do we put this in the day? Do we take that out of the day? Do we choose this placement? Do we choose that placement? So many choices. So most parents and teachers will come in for themselves as a master IEP, to become a master IEP coach for their own classroom or family. But I also teach you how you can become a master IEP coach and help other people. So that's been my full-time career for like decades. Absolutely has been. It's what I love to do. I'm obsessed with IEPs. I'm obsessed with the results that a child can have and how they get prepared for the future by having an IEP that works. So often we think of an IEP of like, well, this is a piece of paper that is just, getting us through these school years to make sure a child is learning something. No, an IEP can truly be an intensive plan that prepares a child for further education, employment, independent living. And it doesn't have to feel exhausting. What? Yes, I promise you, it doesn't have to feel exhausting. So if you're like, what is a master IEP coach and how do I do this for myself, for my family, and for my community, head over to masteriepcoach.com. If you're like, heck no, I am not ready to go that intensive into IEPs. I don't want to know all the things and help other people. I just need to continue this conversation because I've got questions and I need answers and I need support. And you're in that middle of that decision fatigue of all the things that need to happen in special education. That's where you just go grab your checklist and find out more about the inner circle. On that note, I hope you guys had a fantastic holiday. I hope that you are, realizing that you are doing your best through this situation, that you're giving yourself grace, that you're realizing that it's okay that things weren't like they were before when it comes to progress, or when it, in a traditional sense, your child is making an extreme amount of progress in other ways. Some of those ways are not measurable. There's social emotional progress that is happening. There's behavior progress that is happening. It's just not in the way that it was before. It's different. That doesn't mean that we don't need to get on track with the other stuff. We absolutely do. But just remember that we're all learning things right now. We're all in situations that we haven't been in before. And we are going to be okay when we get back to school full time. There's going to be a whole transition period back into school. So for right now, let's think about what do you need to do those first 60 days into the new year. And let's start to get a plan for that. And that way you can enjoy your holidays. I'll help you do that with that IEP checklist. Just hop on over to iepchecklist.com and I will see you guys soon.